steering groups have multiple functions. So what do they need to do, and how can you, as a project manager, get the best from yours? First, recognise that steering groups or SteerCos or oversight groups or project boards are creatures of governance. That is to say, their first duty is to the sponsoring organisation. It is their duty to make sure that the project or programme runs properly. That said, of course, there are many different ways that this can express itself. Just the term runs properly opens up many interpretations. There will be a lot of variation in the precise responsibilities that each steering group will have, and indeed the name it goes by. As I say, common names aside from steering group are steering committee or SteerCo, project board, executive board or executive group, project executive. You name it, there will be an organisation that has that title for its steering group. At one extreme, a steering group may do exactly what its name suggests and steer the project. It will make the key decisions that will keep the project going in the direction that it sees fit. Often these decisions will be on technical matters, but they could also include strategic matters, or indeed they may tinker with more tactical matters. In this example of a steering group, though, where steering is what it really does, the primary responsibility is therefore not to the project as a whole. Therefore, there is another extreme. At the other extreme, the steering group is responsible for the oversight of the project and its accountability to the wider organisation. This may be more likely to be called something like a project board, and it is more likely to focus in terms of decision making on the biggest strategic decisions, whilst also overseeing the processes, the procedures and the delivery of value of the project or programme. Indeed, sometimes a project or programme board will have a subsidiary steering group that focuses on more tactical or more technical decisions. The steering group is more of a support to the project manager and their team, whilst the programme board is more the oversight and strategic decision authority. This kind of binary division of responsibilities between oversight and strategy on the one hand, and detailed technical and tactical decision making and steering on the other, allows for a much wider representation of individuals across two bodies without overburdening a single body with too much to do and, frankly, too many people to do it. It's a structure I've used in many of my projects and one that I value highly. However, as with the name, there are an infinite different number of ways that you can allocate duties among one or two or even more bodies, but don't multiply your troubles by having too many oversight or decision-making bodies. With their duties out of the way, how can you handle your steering group or your project board so that you can get the best out of them? In setting up your steering group, I have a simple rule. Roles first, faces second. Work with your project sponsor or your project director or whoever is responsible for the project at the highest level. It might be a client or just your boss. Work with them to identify what roles will make this organisational body work effectively. Think about what it needs to achieve and the roles that will help it achieve them. And once you've defined what the roles are, look for the right individuals from within the wider organisation to recruit into your steering group. Work with your boss or client or project sponsor and maybe with the steering group itself to develop basic terms of reference so that the group knows what it must do, but also knows where the limits of its authority and competence sit. These terms of reference should include things like its purpose, its competencies, what it can and cannot look at, its authority, what it can and cannot commit, and its rules or procedures or any constraints on how it acts. If there are going to be, its officers or named roles, and maybe the frequency or regularity or timing of its meetings. And finally, how it will handle any conflicts of interest. And I'm a big advocate for providing training to project sponsors and project steering group members, or at the very least, some orientation event that makes sure everyone has a common understanding of terms of reference and ways of working together effectively. Once it's up and running, your best bet as a project manager is to work closely with the chair of your steering group or steering committee. Work with them to prepare well, to make sure you are prepared to answer their questions and they are prepared at least to ask the right questions. I recommend you adopt a no surprises attitude. Make sure that the steering group has received your report before you go in, but if your report is going to contain anything that's a major surprise, then maybe the personal touch of making a few phone calls and talking through the issues with individuals before they receive the report will head off some of the problems you might encounter if a senior individual sees a report that contains something that shocks and horrifies them. However, it is worth saying that sometimes you want the impact of a surprise at a meeting. Think this through very carefully, because there is usually a price to pay for that kind of theatre. But if you are sure that the best way to handle a situation is by surprising your steering group, then do it very carefully. And I would recommend that even then you engage the support of the chair so that she or he knows what you're going to do and is able to support you appropriately. Do not be afraid to use your steering group. They are a project asset and they're there for you to use as much as you are there to be accountable to them. You can use your steering group for decisions, for advice and guidance, for access to resources, and of course to sign off stage reports or actions that you intend to take. It's important at the end of each steering group meeting that you document the decisions that it makes and any actions any individual commits to. Whilst custom and practice suggests that it is often the project manager or possibly a program or portfolio manager who makes the notes, it's useful if you are able to bring a junior member of the team to make notes so you can focus on what's going on and what's being said, and then you can work with them afterwards to go through with the notes and to turn those into an effective and useful formal record of the meeting. Finally, I have 3 tips for you to make the very, very best out of your relationship with your steering group. And the first is that transparency is really important. You need to be prepared to be open and honest about the status of the project and anything that's happened. If you're prepared to be open about the mistakes that have happened, then the group is more likely to receive good news and celebrate successes openly because they will be more trusting that they are for real. This, of course, will give them more confidence in you, but it does lead me to the second tip. Humility is far more likely to get you help than arrogance or overconfidence. Be humble in the face of what are genuinely usually senior people with a lot of experience. And my third tip is early on in your project or program, introduce to the group your alternate, a deputy who can turn up to the meeting in your place and be respected and recognised as an appropriate substitute for you. This gives you a lot of flexibility and the confidence that the project and program doesn't absolutely require you to be there, which means that you can take time off when you need it. Steering groups, project boards, SteerCos can be fickle creatures. Because they are highly political, they tend to be made up of senior people who will all have their own agenda. Therefore, binding them with clear terms of reference and treating them with the respect that they deserve is the best way to get the best from your steering group, your SteerCo, or your project board. Please do give this video a like if you've learned from it or you've enjoyed it. I'll be creating loads more great project management content for you, so please do subscribe to the channel and hit the bell so you don't miss any of it. And I look forward to seeing you in the next one.